Hello PHPers, it's Bruce here with a video about radio buttons and sticky radio buttons. And this particular one you may need for project number 2, which has to do with financial aid. All right, so let's look at the HTML first, okay, and specifically the form. Okay, so I'm going to be looking at this area on the page that's highlighted right now in VS Code. So I'm using the Bootstrap classes for radio buttons and checkboxes, all right? So if you go to the Bootstrap documentation, okay, and you look at, and we'll be covering this week, and you go to forms, and you go to checks and radios, they give you the code that you need to enclose your input and your labels and the classes you need to assign to them. And I'll give you this code. So here I've created 2 radio buttons. All of this code right here is 2 radio buttons. And the div that goes around each grouping, right, gets the class form-check. And the input itself gets form-check-input. And the label gets form-check-label. And it creates these really nice looking radio buttons. See how nice they are? All right. And it does line them up one underneath one another. Okay. Good for accessibility. Now, check this out. Radio buttons name is the same, right, on a group of radio buttons because only one value can be returned. And in the case of financial aid, it's either going to be the value 1 or 0, because if you look at the database table that I provided you for the financial aid column, it only allows a value of 1 or 0. So our job, right, is to eventually insert into the database table, right, the value 1 or 0, depending upon whether the person selected, whether they get financial aid or not, right? The other thing you want to know is that the ID for each one of these, right, is going to be unique. In this case, fin aid yes matches up to the label for fin aid yes. And same thing with fin aid no, for financial aid no, right? So those things match up. All right. So the tricky part here, right, is to make them like sticky, right? So if I click on yes and you click submit, and maybe the user didn't fill out all the data, you want to be able to keep that radio button sticky, right? So see here, yes is sticky, no is sticky, right? And if I reload the page, and I don't click anything, I'm getting this, notice that I need to select a value, right? So how do I do this? Now, the sticky part is interesting, right? So I'm creating 2 separate values here, and I'm using a ternary, and the goal is to emit the word checked, right? The word checked if the person select yes, we want to check it. If the person select no. So I needed to create 2 separate variables here. Financial aid yes and financial aid no. And these are PHP variables, right? Now, hold on to that thought, right? Because our job is going to be to figure out, right, whether we need to check this one or we need to check this one. And you cannot do this with the same variable, just so you know. That's why I created 2. So let's carry on, right, to the PHP code right here. Now, I'm checking here to see if we're posting. And then I've seen people use empty on the radio buttons, okay? And you don't want to do that. You want to check to see if it's set, right? Did somebody actually click on one of the radio buttons? Not whether it's empty or not, but is it set? Is the financial aid key in the $post super global associative array, right? So if it is set, if it's there, let's check to see now whether the value whether they clicked on yes, because the value of yes is 1, right? So if we go back here, you can see here, value equals 1, and this is for financial aid of yes, and then value of 0 that they didn't for no, all right? So let me go back up here. So we're saying, hey man, was it 1? Did they select yes? Well, if it is, I'm going to store that value of 1 because I'm going to need that downstream for my SQL when I need to insert that value for financial aid into the database table. And then I'm going to set, because I knew they clicked on yes, I'm going to set the financial aid yes variable equal to true, and the financial aid no variable equal to false. And then if it wasn't 1, if they clicked on no, then I know that the financial aid value is going to be 0. And I know that the financial aid no is going to, actually this should be yes, okay? Oops, yes, whoops, can't type, right? What, why is it? Okay, yes. And the other one is true, that they did. I need these two separate values to control the stickiness, right, of that form, okay? And that's why I created 2 variables here, and I used them as true and false. The other thing I should fix here is that I should really get the value from the post and not just hard code financial underscore aid. I'll just copy this right here, okay? So there we go. So let me just test this, and then I'll explain why I put these 2 initial values and set them both to false right there, okay? So let me go back. I'll click submit. So it's not set. It's not set, so the program is telling me you need to set it. If I click on no, and I click on submit, right? There it is. It remembered no. And if I click on yes, it remembers yes, okay? So why did I create these 2 variables here? Well, if I don't have them defined, I'll get errors, right? You see? So it's like I'm trying to use these 2 variables to control whether or not, right, the particular radio button is checked. So when I do a get, right, which means I'm just loading the page, I'm not posting, I need to have these 2 things set, and they're both false because I don't want either one checked by default, right? So if I did want them checked by default, I could just say true here for this, whoops, true, and watch what happens. It's automatically checked, and it's sticky. If I click on no, same thing, everything still works. So this, I'm gonna give you the code, and I'm gonna put it in Canvas, but this is how you do sticky radio buttons, and how you can do the financial aid stuff for your project number 2. Now this result is this video is the result of a couple Zoom calls that I had with people over the weekend, all right? So yeah, I hope it helps, and thank you to those people who reached out for help. It means a lot. And again, I used is set, not empty. A lot of people are using empty, and it's causing them grief. So this code right here is what I'm using, and then I'm using variables down here, right, to determine whether or not that particular item should be checked or not, right? Checked or not, because only one radio button can be checked at a time. And it's very common for people to try to use the same variable here, right? Now notice, I just have a variable. It's either true or false. If true, check, checked, right? If false, null, right? So this is a really good thing to keep in your programming toolbox. Thanks for watching. I'll upload the code and the video right now.